Hi, I'm Dr. Randall Bell. With me is Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo, Dr. E. Great to see you.
Great to be here.
We're going to get into core IQ stuff, basically things we need to know in life, but we're not necessarily taught in school. Things like goal setting, time management, negotiation. And this episode is talking about something, I think you developed this.
Yes, I did.
This is another one of your things. That's why we see you on TV all the time. Every time I turn on the TV, there you are talking about it. The OverUnder Principle.
The OverUnder Principle.
We talked about this once on the phone, enough to go, wow, this is really super cool. But let's just get into it.
Okay.
Okay.
So the OverUnder Principle is something that I have created after working with clients for over 2 decades.
Okay.
And it really started when I was working with couples, right? And I talked to a couple, and let's say the guy would explain something that happened, and I'd be like, oh, he's totally in the right. And then the wife would come in and explain the same situation from her perspective, and I'd be like, oh, she's totally right. Right? So how is that possible?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's how this is developed. And when we start to look into it, it really applies to all walks of life, regardless of what people do or say. So I'm going to explain the over-under principle, and then I'm going to ask you for an example from your own personal life.
Okay, this is like a test.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I better pay attention.
So the over-under principle, I even use hand motions here. The over-under principle says for every overt or outward behavior,
there's kind of like here.
There's a positive underlying motivation.
Okay.
For every overt behavior, regardless of how mean-spirited it seems, or unkind, or unnice, or not very smart, there's a positive underlying motivation. So tell me about a time when you upset someone. Something that you did, someone got upset because of it.
Well, I don't have to go too far back. Let me see. I think when I asked my son to take out the trash.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
You asked your son to take out the trash.
Right.
And so this is the overt behavior. Why was he upset? Because he was assuming something about what you were saying. What do you think was going on in his mind?
Well, my guess would be he was thinking, I'm really busy. Why don't you take out the trash?
I'm really busy. Why don't you take out the trash?
Right, right.
And so was he frustrated with you?
Yeah.
And my guess is he also was probably thinking like, I'm busy. Why is your time more important than my time? Yeah.
Exactly.
So what happens is when someone does something that upsets us, we come up with this whole idea of why they're doing it.
Okay.
He doesn't care about me. He thinks he's better than me. I don't know what he was thinking, but it was probably something like that.
Gotcha.
Now you tell me why you asked him to take the trash out.
Well, I believe in chores. I think that, you get all these nice things and you need to do a little bit of work for it. So that's what I think.
So the importance of responsibility.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So your underlying motivation was to help teach responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the thing about the over-under principle.
Okay.
When you are looking at someone else's behaviors, what they do or say, you're assuming you know why.
Okay.
So your son is thinking, he's being disrespectful of me.
Right.
Right? The person engaging the behavior is focused on the underlying motivation. I'm just trying to teach you responsibility. Okay? And you're not having the same conversation. Mm-hmm. So he may be upset with you because he's so focused on the fact that you aren't respecting him, but you can't understand why he's upset with you because you're just trying to teach him responsibility.
I think you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's like you're having a different conversation.
Right.
So the key when someone gets upset with what you're doing is to, I don't want to say come down to their level because that sounds a little condescending, but to really empathize with them. Wow, you know what? I see that you're busy. And you may have interpreted that to mean that I wasn't respecting your time. That's not at all what I meant. And sit in empathy for a bit.
Okay.
And then you can go to problem solving. And at the same point, you live in this house, and anyone who lives in this house, we all have certain responsibilities. So how can we make sure that you are helping out around the house in a way that you feel respected?
Okay. So here's what I do say. Tell me, I'm sure there's something wrong with it. So what I do say is, look, dude, he's a surfer, so I have to talk to him surfer talk. I go, look, dude, we all have chores. I do stuff I don't like to do. And he says, well, I don't want to da-da-da-da. And I have a little line. I say, well, I want purple monkeys to drop from the sky and give me $100 bills, but we all don't get what we want, so take out the trash. I mean, that's kind of, what's wrong with that?
It feels a little passive-aggressive to me, if you ask me. So you aren't empathizing with him.
Okay.
And it's human nature to want to be heard.
Right.
If you don't hear me, I'm going to keep convincing you either overtly with what I'm saying or in my mind. and I'm not going to hear anything that you're saying.
Okay.
So the key is really to empathize with him. I get that you don't like taking out the trash. I don't like taking out the trash either. And at the same time, we know the trash needs to be taken out. So how can we move forward?
I love that. I'm going to memorize that. I'm going to put that on a little card and put it in my wallet.
So, and it works in so many different situations. So I had a client the other day whose teenager was caught underage drinking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the overt behavior was underage drinking.
Right.
And my client was livid.
Right.
He'd been having all kinds of conversations about the importance of staying away from alcohol and drugs. And he went in and just started yelling at her.
Okay.
I said, well, I call it the game of life. So I said, well, let's play the game of life. What might have been a positive underlying motivation? Mm-hmm. Oh, she's trying to defy me. She's trying to go against me. Okay, what else could it be? Well, she is anxious and she wants to fit in. Now,
okay.
I think we could all agree that being anxious and wanting to have less anxiety and wanting to fit in is a positive underlying motivation.
Right.
That doesn't make the overt behavior of underage drinking okay.
Uh-huh.
But the underlying motivation is good.
Okay.
So instead of going in and yelling at her and her thinking my parents don't understand me and then drinking more
right.
or going behind their back more,
right.
what I recommended is that he sit down with her and say, hey, here's the deal. I know that you're anxious in social situations.
Okay.
And I know you want to fit in. That makes sense. And sit with that for a while and have a conversation in that place of empathy.
Wow. That's great.
And once the other person feels heard, in this case the teen,
right.
once she felt really heard, then she could have the conversation of, you're right, Dad, I know I'm not supposed to drink. And then they can problem solve together. What can you do instead of drinking alcohol to feel more socially comfortable and less anxious?
That's really powerful stuff. So with like the volunteer stuff I do in prison, a lot of the, I say guys because they're all men, it's a men's prison, but a lot of the guys talk about, hey, I grew up, I wasn't getting any respect, I wasn't getting any love at home,
yes.
Nothing, and so machoism, they went into gangs because they had this kind of counterfeit idea of respect and belonging.
Yeah.
Does that kind of explain
Completely.
things a little bit?
Yeah, so if someone engages in a gang behavior, like
right.
what? Give me an example. What might they do?
Oh, well, they go out gang banging and stealing from people or
okay.
dealing drugs.
Stealing from people, dealing
okay.
drugs, maybe even killing someone.
Right.
Okay, obviously those aren't positive
not a
behaviors.
good thing, yeah.
But what's the positive underlying motivation?
They want to fit in.
Gangs, they just want to fit in.
Right.
That's a positive underlying motivation. It's human nature
yeah.
to want to fit in.
Right.
And what happens is they feel stuck.
Right.
I want to fit in. The only thing I can see is this. Mm-hmm. And so they do it. And then once they do it, they probably have this guilt and shame of themselves. What we really need to do is take a step back and say, what can we do to have these people, this group of individuals, feel like they fit in with a group that's not going to be stealing things, that's not going to be dealing drugs, that's not going to be killing.
Right. Yeah. You said guilt and shame, and ironically, at the age of 59 years old, I learned the difference between guilt and shame from these prisoners in prison. Shame is you're ashamed, but you did nothing wrong. Like my family doesn't have enough money, or I'm too tall, or I'm too short, or I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny. Those are all shame issues. Guilt is I did something wrong. And part of that whole rehabilitation process is untangling guilt from shame. Here I did something wrong and I feel bad for what I did, and here I did nothing wrong. And so talking it about is really the remedy for the shame thing. Just kind of a side note to this.
Yeah,
so give us kind of explain this a little bit and this graphic a little bit.
So usually what happens is when someone does something that upsets us, we assume we know why.
Okay.
Right? So, I don't know, if my husband comes home late, even though I told him to be home on time, right? My assumption may be, work is more important than me. He doesn't care about our family.
Okay, got it.
And as a result, unless I'm being assertive, I may not be so kind when he comes home.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay. But if I play the game of life and I say, okay, what could be the underlying motivation? A positive underlying motivation. Well, I know that he had a big project due. I know that he wanted to probably just finish everything so that when he came home from work, we could just hang out as a family and have a nice dinner. Okay. So if that's his positive underlying motivation, then I can empathize with him.
Okay.
I'm not angry anymore. I'm not gonna get into an argument. But I still can be assertive in terms of, hey, I know you want to finish your project.
Yeah. Okay.
At the same time, you said you'd be home by 6 and you weren't.
Okay.
So next time, please text me.
Gotcha. Okay. So I noticed that this is kind of like from the Eastern philosophy, yin and yang, yin and yang.
It is.
Was that on purpose, or
No?
You just kind of.
I like that though.
Okay, it's kind of the opposing forces.
Yeah.
I mean, in Western society, we think of things in good and evil, black and white, good and bad. But in Eastern philosophies, they have kind of an opposing force. I don't know it well enough to even explain it, but that's kind of the opposing force, where you understand that here's the overt behavior, but here's something behind it that may not be quite as bad as we thought, or maybe bad behavior, but there's an underlying good reason for it.
There's an underlying good reason for it, exactly.
Okay.
And it's so important that we look at this underlying reason. So let's take another example. Bullying. I think we can all agree that bullying is not a positive thing, putting other people down. But why do bullies bully? Bullies bully because they want to feel better about themselves.
Right.
Their way to feel better about themselves is putting people down to feel better about themselves. So instead of maybe punishing a bully, what we need to do, certainly there should be repercussions for what people do, but what we really need to do is help people develop a sense of positive self-image, believing in themselves in a way so that they don't feel the need to bully. So we can change overt behaviors that we don't like, that aren't helpful, by addressing the positive underlying motivation.
I get it. I went to the principal's office once because my son was being bullied, and they brought the bully in. And it turned out he had been bullied the year before, and his kind of bad reaction to what he had been through.
Very common.
It was, I got to say, the school handled it perfectly, and those guys walked out friends again. So kind of understanding the overt, underlying motivation, and also talking about it.
Yes.
Just getting real and talking about it.
Exactly, because usually what we do is we assume why the person's doing it, and we don't actually find out. So when you can have that communication, what's really going on, then you can make changes and move forward.
Totally get it. Well, over, under. You came up with it. This is brilliant. Have you written a book about this?
Not yet.
You got to do
tuned.
that. And what are the books you've written? Because I've been through some of them.
I wrote Better Than Perfect, 7 Strategies to Crush Your Inner Critic and Create a Life You Love.
Okay.
And Happy You, Your Ultimate Prescription for Happiness.
Good stuff. I think you need a third one. Okay. Thanks for coming to Core IQ.
Thank you.